My name is Trey. My pronouns are he, him, his. I have been asked to read the scripture this evening, uh, which is 1 Thessalonians chapter 2, verses 1 through 8. Uh, you yourselves know, brothers and sisters, that our coming to you was not in vain, but though we had already suffered and been shamefully mistreated at Philippi, as you know, we had courage in our God to declare to you the gospel of God in spite of great opposition. For our appeal does not spring from deceit or impure motives or trickery, but just as we have been approved by God to be entrusted with the message of the gospel, even so we speak, not to please mortals, but to please God who tests our hearts. As you know, and as God is our witness, we never came with words of flattery or the pretext for greed, nor did we seek praise from mortals, whether from you or from others, though we might have made demands as apostles of Christ. But we were gentle among you, like a nurse tenderly caring for her own children. So deeply do we care for you that we are determined to share with you not only the gospel of God, but also our own selves, because you've become very dear to us. May we be blessed by the reading of this word. Amen.
And amen. So, long about 15 years ago, I was in Toronto for a few days. And while I was there, I visited the Art Gallery of Ontario. And it's an enormous art museum. It's one of the largest in all of North America. And after spending some time exploring the museum, I browsed around the gift shop and settled on a t-shirt as a souvenir of the trip. It was kind of a simple black cotton t-shirt with one stark white line across it. And it read, "Art Matters." Now, this was before the killing of Trayvon Martin and Michael Brown, years before the amazing activist trio of Opal Tometi, Patrisse Cullors, and Alicia Garza fashioned a hashtag and gave birth to a movement that rightly asserts that Black Lives Matter. And I'll mention, by the way, put in a plug that the amazing Alicia Garza, who a couple of years ago hosted a meeting at Beloved, has a new book out called The Power of Purpose, How We Come Together When We Fall Apart. I haven't read it yet, but I have it on order from a favorite independent bookstore, and I'm looking forward to that. So I lift that book up to you this evening. And so I have this Art Matters t-shirt that I love, and then there's the Black Lives Matter moment, and I remember it gradually dawning on me that maybe it was time to retire my Art Matters t-shirt to around the house wear. Because even though I know about the origins of the t-shirt and the fact that it predated this particular moment in the racial justice struggle, there was no way to wear it out in public and explain to everyone I met the whole backstory. And I did not want to put forth the idea that the Art Gallery of Ontario had appropriated the message rooted in the struggle for Black lives and then sold it in the gift shop, that I was then colluding in that. That's okay, I've got plenty of t-shirts to wear. And I wouldn't for anything do even a small thing to take away from the struggle for racial justice if I can help it. But all that to say today that as I bring to a close this preaching series on Beyond Hopelessness, I want to both specifically evoke the particular language of mattering. And I want to do it not carelessly, but with the full respect and gravity and joy that is nowadays assumed with that term. For I'd like to suggest to you today that one of the reasons that we get mired in hopelessness is that we cease to believe what we do and who we are matters. I'm going to say that again. One of the reasons that we end up mired in hopelessness is that we don't think what we do matters. And of course, the world we live in schools us in that myth. Because if we buy into it, then we'll also buy into an endless script of chasing after personal significance. And a profit-driven, idol of individualism society will make you believe that your own actions and indeed your own being are too insignificant. Although it will also try to seduce you into buying your way into the smoke and mirrors of being your own idol. So we're trying to value humility and not hubris, and to find our way through this. And the problem, if we're not sufficiently attuned to the nuance, is that we're likely to miss this subtle and essential point. What you do matters. Who you are matters. And I say that not to dilute the vital message of the Black Lives Matter movement, but to pay tribute to its most critical point. We live in a culture that often tries to teach people that they don't matter. Our cultural context is a big and often uncaring place, but the intrinsic dignity and the chosen actions of all of us as human beings matter. Not only human beings, but the vastness of all creation matters. And to the extent that Blackness or other undervalued markers of human identity are put down rather than lifted up, well, let it be said and let it be known that you matter to God and to the world. So we've covered a number of topics in this sermon series on what lies beyond hopelessness. We've talked about clarity and calm. We've talked about finding your way in the struggle. We've talked about having a commitment to ethics. We talked about generosity of spirit. And last week we reflected on the mystery of God. And so we end this series today with the affirmation that what you do matters. I started the series after hearing a persistent echo of feeling hopeless among many people, both within this congregation and beyond it. And I've intentionally carried it through this long month ahead of Election Day. I became your pastor 3 weeks before the 2016 election. So I guess I've been particularly attuned to the political stresses of the last several years on you all and on us all. But we go forward together into whatever lies ahead. And if we want to let God work in us and through us so that each and every one of us in turn ministers to the world around us, we must know and take solace in this truth. What you do each day with your life, the things you do matter. Our text from today from the Apostle Paul's first letter to the Thessalonians reinforces that for us. Paul's talking about he's had it rough with the Philippians, right? Though we had already suffered and been shamefully mistreated at Philippi, as you know, we had courage in our God. We had courage in our God to declare to you the gospel of God in spite of great opposition. But our coming to you was not in vain. For our appeal does not spring from deceit or impure motives or trickery, but just as we have been approved by God to be entrusted with the message of the gospel, even so we speak, not to please mortals, but to please God who tests our hearts. That's us living in that space. What you do matters. Your daily work in the world and how you do it, the kindness that you show, the justice you work for, the compassion you manifest, the decency you strive for, the equity and equality that you hope to build, the respect you embody, the power you challenge. Not with words of flattery or a pretext for greed or to seek praise from mortals, but we who are gentle among you all. This work matters. Doing the work of trying to be the hands and feet of God in the world, that matters, no matter what else is going on. All of you here, you who are caregivers and creators, you who engage with friends and with strangers, you who pray and sing and preach, you read, you think, you hope, and you stand up for what is right and what is good. That work in this world matters. And you matter. And I think we must realize before we close out this series of reflections together that it works on a couple of levels. First of all, what you do and who you are matters in this world. Whether you can see the impact that you have or not, it is significant in ways that neither you nor anyone else may fully consciously grasp. The impact goes beyond what we can see or perceive. Call it the ripple effect or the butterfly effect or however you want to describe it in terms of natural phenomena. But what you do matters. Who you are matters. It counts for something important and whole in the world. That's the external effect. And on the other note, I lift up to you something from a different art museum that I visited. This one in Chicago just last fall. And it's something that I keep on my desk all the time now. You see it? I don't know if it's backwards or not, but it says hope is a discipline. It was one of a series of art cards we were invited to pick up as a part of an exhibit that featured the work of the artist Monica Trinidad. So as we seek to situate ourselves beyond hopelessness, we must realize that not only does what we do matter to our near neighbors and to the broader world, whether they realize it or not, and it matters to God, we know God knows that. But the fact is what we do must matter to us. And that's an internal part. And that's where we come to understand that hope, reaching beyond hopelessness into hope, is a discipline. And that the continued act of grounding our perspectives and our actions and our hearts in hope is an act with consequences not only for others, but for ourselves. In other words, if we want to get beyond hopelessness, then we must live in the enduring commitment to hope as a discipline, knowing that it will change us and it will change the world around us. That doesn't mean we traffic in naive optimism that asserts that somehow everything is magically going to all get better. But we do affirm and live like what we do matters, whether times are good or times are bad or very, very bad. In preparing for this sermon this week, I stumbled across an article online about hopelessness that was published in November of 2019, so about a year ago. And it was subtitled, "Almost Everyone I Love is Having a Hard Time Right Now." I saw all that and I just went, woman, you don't even have a clue about what's coming. But all of these things that we have been talking about, that our scriptures hold up to us each and every day across time. These are bigger than immediate circumstances. It's bigger than circumstances that are changing ever more rapidly around us. For our appeal does not spring from deceit or impure motives or trickery, but just as we have been approved by God to be entrusted with the message of the gospel. That's what Paul says. He's right. These are everyday actions, and what we do matters. The small things and the big things. It matters to your own sense of being in the world. It matters to those around you, and it matters to those across the globe. And it matters to God. You matter to God, to this community, to yourself. And what we do counts for something. We don't always believe that. But what we do matters. Amen.